Hello guys, this is Sanjay with Top Dog Realty and Grand Realty. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to speak about contracts and what is it that you really need to look for in contracts. Now, a couple of things you have to understand. Contracts can be very tricky, especially if you are a for sale by owner. So let's jump in and let's look at a couple of points that you want to be extremely careful with. Okay. So this is an expired listing, just went off market. Let's use this listing as an example. Now, if you're the owner of this property, give me a call. I'll do my best to sell it for you. My commission is always negotiable, so I'm not like one of those agents that want to be I'll work with you, okay, or any one of you who needs help selling or buying a home, I'll work with you guys. Okay, so let's say the asking price is $520,000. Okay, now this section here is very tricky, especially if you're for sale by owner, or especially the agents should know it, but just to make you understand to look for certain things. So you should know also what exactly to look for in a contract. Now, these contracts from Florida realtors are actually written by attorneys. Okay. The only way you can get a hold of them is from the realtor. I mean, you know, when you hire an agent, that's the only time you'll be able to access such kind of contracts. Otherwise, everything that's selling out there in Office Depot, Staples, places like that, online contracts, they're not as powerful as this particular contract, and they do not support enough, because in the future, if there's ever a litigation, if there's any kind of issue, now I'm not an attorney, so I cannot say anything there, but as a realtor, if there's any kind of litigation, any issues, this contract is going to really protect you as a seller and as a buyer. So there's a lot of protection clauses. Uh, Now, since this is a purchase contract, this protection clauses mainly for the buyer, but you as the seller need to understand, some things. So let's look at this for a second. So let's say if this is a cash, if somebody comes with you with a cash offer of 520, let's say 520, you're asking 520, and they come with a cash offer of 540. So when it comes to a cash offer, it really doesn't matter, because somebody's willing to pay a lot more than what your property is worth. But that basically depends on the inspection, if there's a waiver on the inspection, or you see the way the market was a couple months ago. Now the market has come down a little bit because we have more inventory in the market and less buyers. So there's more competition now. But back 2 months before, going back last 1.5 years, it was crazy. Anytime you list a property for any value, you would just get a ridiculous amount of offer. I mean, for the seller, it was amazing because, you're getting more than the property was worth. And it was crazy. But but today it is tough. It is not easy. Back a year ago, a property would not even sit on the market for even 10 minutes. It was like crazy. I mean, like, before it even hit the market, it was sold. And they had like 10, 15 offers on the table. Now it's kind of taking time. It's taking 3 to 6 months and even longer to sell the property. So let's look into this. So let's say you got an offer for 540,000 and you are asking 520,000, and this is a finance offer. So you want to make sure that there is a deposit, always a deposit. Now, some buyers would prefer not to put a deposit until the closing date. But the thing is, if somebody puts a deposit, then that's like a promising contract, right? Because you're not here to play games. So you want a promising contract. Now it's up to the buyers whether they want to put a deposit or not. So I usually look for 5%. This is what I normally see. I work with a lot of cash and qualified buyers. So I always tell the buyer, I educate the buyers. I say, listen, man, if you want the property, you got to be serious. We can't play games here. And this is not how the business works. So if you really want to entertain a contract like this, put 5% down. Okay, put at least 5% down, and we're not asking a whole lot. Now the money gets held with an escrow agent. You know, we can choose the seller's title company, or or the seller's attorney, or we can use our own agency's, escrow agency, and then take it from there. Now, this section right here, additional, so this one we always put 3 days. So if you ever get a contract, make sure to get at least 5%. If somebody comes up, like I sometimes get people come with ridiculous offer like $1,000 down, it's not even, I mean, you can't judge a book by its cover. So sometimes, deal goes through even with $1,000 deposit, even with a $500 deposit. But me personally, I like to take 5% down. That's my personal option. Now, later on, let's say the deal goes through and you want another 5% down. So you put another $27,000 down. Okay. So this is balance due at closing. Now, here is the tricky part, which a lot of people don't understand. And that is, if there is a financing, if there is a financing involved, a couple of things you got to be extremely, extremely careful. So let's say 540 and the balance due is 486. And this is 5% and this is 5%, that makes it 10%. So so you will find somebody put 80% right here. Okay. And you're going to look at this and you're going to be, because this is, some clever agents are extremely clever in the industry, and especially when it comes to financing, you want to be extremely, extremely careful. um, I would always suggest, get a second opinion from an attorney. I would always suggest you to do this, even though you have a professional agent doing the work for you. Always give it as a second opinion to an attorney, because the attorneys they can really go and take out the stuff. Now, what does this mean basically? So let's say you have a property for sale, you're asking 520,000. You get several contracts on the table, all different random price. Some is cash offer, some is financing, and then you get this guy offering you, this person offering you 20,000 more. Of course, it's an attractive contract. But what's really tricky about this contract is this right here. You see this? Because 540 minus 54,000, right? That's 10% less. So your financing should come at 90%, not 80%, not 85%, not 70%. So be very, very careful right there. Because if you make the calculation for this, let me show you what you end up. And then this one, and always when somebody's putting a deposit, make sure you get a copy of proof of funds. You want to make sure there's money. You don't want somebody just to play around with you. 540,000 minus 100. Okay. So if you get an offer of 540,000, and this is what you get, and you get an 80% instead of 90% because the other 10% lies over here. Now remember, an offer which is contingent upon an appraisal seriously means that if the appraisal comes out to this value, you're going to get this entire thing. But if the appraisal, let's say, comes out at 480 and the buyer is not willing to move above the market value, then you are actually selling the property at 480,000, which will give you a very big loss. So these are the things that you have to be extremely, extremely careful when you're looking out. So anytime you get an offer, a good offer, and it says like this, you want to make sure that the appraisal contingency is waived off, because that what that does is it makes the buyer, you know, relied on whether the appraisal appraises or not, you still end up getting that full price amount. Now, if the buyer decides not to waive off the appraisal contingency, you want to negotiate with the buyer before the inspection ends. And this is a very, very difficult situation, because if this is not taken care of ahead of time, it can get really ugly in the end. And so you can do here appraisal contingency, and you can do like a waiver. A waiver can be done with an appraisal contingency waiver. So whenever you get a financed offer, make sure that this is checked off. You don't want that off, because if that is checked on and you're signing on an appraisal contingency agreement, that means you are agreeing, as a seller, you're agreeing to the buyer, okay, you know what? If the property doesn't appraise for a certain value, we are okay. Whatever it appraises, we're going to take. And that is what you really, really need to be extremely careful of. So anytime you get a high offer, sometimes these higher offers are not a good offer. Okay. So this is, let me see. Fine. So here's, so if it's a cash transaction, this we do this. But if this is checked, the contract is contingent upon whether it's so such and such days. Loan approved, buyer approving a loan of this. Check one. That's not. Buyer shall make finance. They have 5 days to make the application. Okay. So you want to be extremely careful that this section right here is not checked. And the second thing is this one right here is not checked. And the second thing is you are not signing, make sure that the buyer signs a waiver, appraisal, waiver, contingency, in order for you to get a higher price than what you are really valued at. And that's going to make life much easier. So does it mean that you're going, if the waiver is signed, means you are going to end up with this price no matter what, if the deal goes through. So if the inspection passes and the financing is approval, that means the buyer out of pocket needs to come out with this much money from their pocket to fulfill that extra 10%. Because here is 5%, here is 5%, 80% is coming from financing, we're left with 10%, so the buyer is coming out with this amount. Okay, so I hope you guys understand. This is just, basic stuff that you have to be very careful. when you're looking into contracts. Sometimes contracts can look really, really like tempting, but the reality is really something else. And this is why you really need to, approach some professional agents. When you're hiring agents, make sure to get a background history. A background history means the years they have been in the business. Um, it is not an easy industry, but it's not that difficult either. Okay. So any questions or concerns you have, please put it on the comment section. If you like our videos, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And feel free to contact me anytime. My name is Sanjay Wadhwani with Grand Realty. Number is 954-864-9161. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.